Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. Now, again, I can't stress to you enough that I am not a racist. I abhor racism. I abhor deceit as well. I don't think it's racist to point out that black Africans tend to have dark skin and curly hair and so on and so forth. That's just truth. Okay? Now, when I look at society and I see how they're groomed, right? I see people who are squares and rockers and so on and so forth. Let's look at the squares, for example. They have certain shoes on. Quite often they're not that expensive. They're kind of nice. They in a good condition, kind of modestly dressed in a certain way. But you see the social club grooming, man. In under different circumstances, I don't mind it at all. I find it rather calming, rather pleasant. Like old folks walking in the park, kind of bring some mental clarity and sanity to the world. Okay, but it is the overtones of the oppressor that are there. Why is it like this exactly? You could have a healthy meal in front of you, but if it's there for an oppressor's scheme, then it's a sign that something's wrong. Have fresh air and clean water, and attractive women smiling at you. But if it's there for an oppressor's scheme, and it's easily identifiable as such, especially if that's the case, then there's something wrong with that picture. And it's easily identifiable that there's something wrong. Not that confusing people is right, it's not. People don't understand that I'm right to rebuke people. Not only am I someone who's right with God, who's conveying God's actual message, and we can easily see it, and I might no viable counter-argument. No one else has that argument. They don't have the no viable, I've never heard it. And if they ever said something like that, they're not right. You can't be spitting Catholic doctrine and act like there's no viable counter-argument. There is. Spitting Mormon or whatever, Jehovah's Witness, there is. All your denominations and factions and your philosophies have counter-arguments to them, logical counter-arguments to them. But my arguments have no viable counter-argument. I am the king in many ways, the king of martial arts, the king of kings, the anointed king, the anointed Christos, the Christ. It is my place to swell up with righteous indignation more than everyone else's. And anyone who obeys God through me has that right as well. Psalm 26:5, a psalm of David, says, I abhor the assembly of evildoers and refuse to sit with the wicked. Some will say, well, that's judging them. So you're saying Jesus said he's the root and offspring of David. It's in Psalm. And you're saying that it's wrong. Strange hypocrisy we see. I abhor, I resent the assembly of evildoers and refuse to sit with the wicked. Then there's Psalm 101:3. I will not look with approval on anything that is vile. I hate what faithless people do. I will have no part in it. The perverse in heart will be far from me, and I will have nothing to do with what is evil. You see how if two wicked people get married, it's invalid. If one person is trying to be good, marries a wicked person, it's invalid. Because Jesus in the root and offspring of David is the spirit of it, and he quotes Psalms again and again. Says, my God, why have you forsaken me? That's quoting Psalms. Psalm 118, he said, the stone the builder rejected has become the chief cornerstone. He said, have you never read this? Quoting Psalms. He said, I refuse to take part in anything that's wrong. I will not look with approval on anything that is vile. I hate what faithless people do. I will have no part in it. The perverse in heart will be far from me, and I have nothing to do with what is evil. Psalm 119. Again, remember, Christ quotes Psalms and says he's the offspring. He is the fruit of that way of thinking. That martial face Goliath, take on the Jebusites and the Philistines. That way of thinking. That way of thinking that the champion of God deserves women to submit. Psalm 45. 1 Samuel 17. Michal offered to whoever can defeat the Goliath. Whoever's the champion of God. Royalty. And God eventually elevates that person to the highest position as David is made not only king, but the king that Christ cites as him being the root and offspring of. There's no other way to look at it. There's no viable counterargument. Psalm 119:53. Indignation grips me because of the wicked who have forsaken your law. Does Christ rebuke David? Where's the rebuke to Psalm 119:53? Where is someone saying that he's wrong? Where's someone saying, hey, you can't get angry? Jesus conveyed that as well with the moneylenders in the temple. And some people interpret it as he flogs them, he makes whips, he chases them out. Indignation grips me because of the wicked who have forsaken your law. Going down to verse 158. Unless I have this wrong in my notes. Unless that's another interpretation of 53. But, it's one or the other. Okay. I look on the faithless with loathing, for they do not obey your word. I look on the faithless with loathing. Disgusted with hatred. To loathe something is to hate something. He says, I look on these faithless people with loathing because they do not obey your word. They don't obey God through the king, or they would be doing the right thing. King and thing. Obey and convey. Rhyme and reason. I look on the faithless with loathing, for they do not obey your word. So when I say you people are wrong, and it's disgusting, I'm right. Now, it's wrong for the social media sites and the state to say you can't explain this in a way that suggests you hate people as individuals or groups, because that's hate speech. So according to the state and the social media sites, who are obviously adverse to God's plan, they don't like Psalm 119. They said you can't say that indignation, that you get swole up with righteous indignation, which they would call hate. You can't say you look on the faithless with loathing. You can't say you hate those who don't obey God through you, because that's not right, man. That's against our community standards, our secular satanic standards. You see how simple it is. I am right, and they are wrong. Psalm 45, you love righteousness and hate wickedness. Therefore, God, your God, has set you above your companions. Not only does Psalm say that it's okay to hate the wicked people, but God sets the king above everyone else because of the degree of righteous indignation that he has achieved. And he's referred to as the mighty one, the mighty warrior in that same chapter, that he is translated into martial might. So what Psalm 45 is getting at is you love righteousness and hate wickedness, and it translates into you being the top martial artist ever possible, and God has set you apart in a way that no one can deny, as above your companions. As above. As above. We are not equal in God's eyes. I am the king. I am the top martial artist. I am above everyone else. And it is childish, pitiful, disgraceful, and sick to pretend that's not the case by your actions. You must scramble and obey God through me. Thank you.